Loot boxes are something that have been quite controversial in video games really since they have been introduced. A lot of people just flat out don't like them because it's just a cosmetic that you pay for, you don't really earn it in the game. But there arguably can be even more controversy when it comes to kids. How do kids access these loot boxes or any kind of microtransactions in video games? Especially when it comes down to a loot box type format where in a sense you're kind of gambling. There's been a lot of talk recently in different countries about banning it, but I want to say this is at least one of, if not the first time that I have heard of a nation actually outright banning it for kids. This is coming from Brazil. They are actually legitimately banning the loot boxes in all video games. That is, it's going to basically start very, very soon, and it's going to be for anyone under 18. So I got this from this Eurogame article right here. The campaign against predatory in-game practices takes a step forward in Brazil as President Lula bans loot boxes targeted at people under the age of 18. So this was the author of the article right here. This was written yesterday. This is all coming from something that was put into motion about a week and a half ago in Brazil. So reading the article, it says the president of Brazil, Luiz Lula da Silva, has signed a ban on loot boxes for under 18s into law. This ban will go into effect in March 2026. Now, this ban, it says, comes as part of a wider digital protection law aimed at protecting young people from abuse and exploitation online. Now, it says Chapter 7 of this law focused on electronic games, prohibiting loot boxes aimed at children or adolescents for games without an 18-plus age rating. So when we actually look at this digital protection law, we can see kind of the title part of it right here. It is quite long, and I have linked it if you want to read through it. Now, this is translated into English, but this was put out there 10 days ago on September 17th, and this is a huge law that basically talks about a bunch of different protections for minors in these digital environments. Now, when we skip down to Chapter 7 here, as it mentioned in the article, it says loot boxes offered in electronic games aimed at children and adolescents or likely to be accessible by them are prohibited in accordance with the respective age rating. It also goes into a bit more detail, basically saying that these games have to fully comply with the safeguards provided in a past bill as well, and so this is quite big, obviously, for the loot box format. And as I said, this is a pretty long law. If we look through it, there's a lot of different digital protections for kids. We can just go to the very next chapter, Chapter 8 here, Advertising and Digital Media. It says that the use of profiling techniques to target commercial advertising to children and adolescents is prohibited, as is the use of emotional analysis, augmented reality, extended reality, and virtual reality for this process. Yeah, we are really getting into a Black Mirror episode here, but I mean, this is kind of just how the law is responding to the digital age that we are in. For better or for worse, of course, there are people who are not going to be fully in support of this for various reasons. They could say that this is a sort of form of censorship, so to speak. It's taking away the rights of citizens, even if they are under 18. But like it or not, this does seem to be something that Brazil is taking extremely serious, and they are starting this in March 2026, so that's about 6 months from now. Yeah, we've seen a lot of stuff like this in recent years. Like there was a Dutch political party like from the Netherlands that was trying to pass something like this, but it looks like that has not been passed yet in the Netherlands. When I look at the US and the UK, it does not look like there are any federal laws that just completely outright bans these loot boxes. Funny enough, there was actually a thing in the US that was in January of 2025 that involved Genshin Impact loot boxes. I guess they had to stop selling them to people under the age of 16 without their parents' consent, it looks like. But yeah, US and UK don't really have an outright ban. I'm seeing Japan also doesn't have an outright ban, although they have some legal and regulatory measures surrounding this. But yeah, overall, this is definitely a step in a direction that's trying to safeguard kids, again, for better or for worse, in Brazil. And I don't know, maybe this is going to be the start of other countries following suit with something similar to this, or maybe they are just going to be the only country in the world that does something like this with loot boxes, but I'm guessing probably not.